There's no questioning that yesterday's draw with Chelsea at Stamford Bridge was a disappointing result for us, for lots of reasons. Going into the game on the back of a defeat at Bournemouth, losing the lead to Liverpool and only getting a draw at home, getting beaten by Newcastle after a lacklustre display where we had no attacking edge whatsoever, no cohesion, and then going away to Inter was always going to be a really difficult match. But the way Arteta spoke about it, you'd think we'd absolutely put Inter to the sword and just gotten really unlucky. When the truth is, we never really looked like scoring and they never looked worried. So going into this match against Chelsea, we knew we couldn't afford another defeat. And if we were going to have any hopes of rebuilding the morale around the club, a victory was vital. And then there's the fact that we actually went a goal up and couldn't hold on to the lead. Look, I know Neto's goal is a really special one, but it's a defensive error. Transitioning from the set piece to the open play, Saliba was in the wrong position. Anyway, it was a deeply frustrating draw. And not least because it's Chelsea. Arteta's record against Chelsea is outstanding, but there have been long periods in our history where Stamford Bridge was not a good place to go. There's been some epic matches there as well. In Nwankwo Kanu in the rain, when we were 2-0 down, scoring a hat-trick, an unfeasibly beautiful hat-trick. We've had great performances at Stamford Bridge. This has always been a fixture that you look at the start of the season. They're not our bitterest rival, but there's no love lost between these two teams. So watching Neto, a player we arguably should have signed, have such a good game and score the equaliser and stand there with his fingers in their ears, it's not how you want to end your Sunday. The final whistle had barely blown at Stamford Bridge when people falling all over themselves to declare the season over for Arsenal. Our title charge over. It may not be the middle of November yet, but with Liverpool 9 points clear, there's no way we can haul that back. And that is the prevalent mood. The Arteta out brigade are screaming, furious, shouting. 11 games played. What's happened? Questions being asked over the transfer window, which I think is fair. I do think it's fair to point at the summer transfer window and say we didn't go out and buy all the players we needed. Whether or not you felt we needed a striker last year, having let Eddie Nketiah go, we definitely need to replace him. And it's quite obvious now that Raheem Sterling, I know he couldn't play yesterday because of the ownership and the loan deal, but I don't think he'd have played anyway. And I read today that there were reports from within Arsenal that Arteta's been really disappointed with how Sterling's been training and his performances in training. So if Sterling as our only forward acquisition and that on loan this summer, you have to say, when you're looking like you short of goals in the team, that's a mistake. It's a misstep. Maybe that's one of the reasons why Edu left. I don't know. I'm not here to defend the summer transfer window. I don't think it was quite good enough. I don't think Marino settled in as quickly as we'd hoped. But then, give him some slack. After all, he had his shoulder fractured by Gabriel the first day in training. So he has had some recovering to do and possibly lacks a bit of match fitness for that. Calafiori injured as well. And look, I'm not 100% convinced by him. And I don't think it would make that much difference to our title if he'd been playing. I'm not sure about Calafiori yet, but in any case, he's not been brought in to fix a goal-scoring issue. So it's possible to agree that the summer transfer window wasn't quite good enough, but it wasn't good enough for Liverpool or Man City either, to be fair. So at least we're all on a level playing field in that respect. But the difference is, of course, that Liverpool have come out of the traps flying like a bullet out of a gun, and they have amassed a 9-point lead over us. Clearly, they haven't been suffering as we have. But last season didn't start that well either, and we were still in it on the last day. But how is this season really stacking up against last season? Well, it is worse. You don't need me to tell you that. And I'm not here to mitigate it by saying, we had red cards. We have had 3 red cards. The Declan Rice one was ridiculous and shouldn't have happened, and I think cost us 2 points at home to Brighton. The Trossard one, he barges a player and kicks a ball away so soon after we'd had a player sent off for the second yellow offence for exactly the same thing. He walks. He gets a hug from Arteta as he walks off. And at the time I thought, that's quite good because Trossard doesn't need to be made to feel terrible about this. We hang on at Man City to the 97th minute, but we give away the goal with almost the last kick of the game and drop 2 points. That's deeply frustrating. The other red card, the Saliba one, on its own, got no complaints really. It's a criminal pass from Trossard, leaves Saliba totally exposed. He reacts instinctively and gets sent off for it. These things happen. I mean, happened last season when Tomiyasu was sent off against Crystal Palace. The only difference is we managed to hold on to a 1-0 victory at Palace, and against Bournemouth, it was a bad performance. So red cards is not really a good excuse if you're bringing them on yourself. It's just another reason to look at the team and say there are areas that need to improve here quite quickly. We have also had injuries this season, but arguably we've been really quite lucky with the exception of Saliba over the last 2 seasons. So these things balance out. And look, Man City have far bigger injury problems than we have, and probably did last season and the season before. They have a deeper squad. Red cards and injuries, we can't really use those as an explanation. We are playing worse than we did last season. If you take the 11 fixtures we've played so far this season and the corresponding fixtures of last season in these 11 games, playing Wolves at home, Villa away, etc., we actually picked up 23 points. This season we're on 19 points. We have dropped 4 points from our performance in the equivalent fixtures last season. So, is it that we didn't sign a striker, that we're lightweight? This is the same team that has had a brilliant 2024 up until that Bournemouth game. This is the same squad of players. If they're all fully fit, can we not expect them to play as well? Or are we seeing a drop-off? Are we somehow a worse team with the same squad because they're not quite as good as they were last season? It's not impossible. But there is something else that's different this season, which I don't think is getting mentioned enough. And one of the reasons I'm still quite positive. It's not just that I'm a hopeless romantic. It's not that I'm some sort of Arteta forever. I do believe in staying positive till you can't win it anymore. That's true. But it isn't just that. There is a very real detail in this season so far, which seems to have escaped notice. And let me remind us all what it was like when we had to endure Tottenham last season after 9 games, saying without any hint of irony that they thought they might be able to win the Premier League. In the end, they finished 5th. That's how big the drop-off can be. But the reason they felt on top of the world and were on top of the table after 9 games is because they really hadn't played anyone very difficult yet. 38 games in a season is a great leveler because we all play each other home and away, and the points you end up with at the end of the season accurately reflect your position in that league. I've always felt that. But after 11 games, it is possible that you get a quite unfair distribution. And this season, it's really worth analysing Arsenal's. At the start of every season, when you look at the fixture list, there are 6 difficult games that are going to be pivotal in the title. They are Manchester City away, Liverpool away, Aston Villa away, Newcastle away, Tottenham away, and Chelsea away. There are other difficult games, and you won't necessarily win all of the other games, and you won't necessarily win every home game, although a real title challenge, you want to be winning at least 16 of them, let's say 15 or 16 of them. Now, normally in a season, given that there are 6 very challenging fixtures, you'd expect 3 of them in the first half of the season, 3 in the second half of the season. And the reality is we've played 5 of them already in 11 games. We went to Man City and got a draw. We went to Villa and got a win. We went to Spurs and got a win. We lost at Newcastle and got a draw at Chelsea. I think it's worth mentioning because I haven't seen anyone else mention it. In the corresponding fixtures last season, we got 5 points. This season, we've got 8. So in our most difficult fixtures of the season so far, we've done 3 points better than we did in the corresponding fixtures last season. The only fixture we therefore have left that's one of our 6 toughest fixtures is Liverpool away. And last season we got a point there. But even if we don't get a point there this season, we'll still be 2 points better off in those 6 fixtures than we were. And at the start of the season, the feeling was we needed to do 2 points better if Man City stayed where they were. Now, as it turns out, it doesn't look like Man City have stayed where they are either. They've had injuries. Just as we found it impossible to replace Martin Odegaard, how are they going to replace Rodri? They've only just got Kevin De Bruyne back fit. Their injury problems are looking pretty shabby. It's easy for me to see that they might not finish as well as they did last season. So maybe if we just improve by 2 points this season, we can be champions. That's not a far-fetched idea, surely. It is highly unusual to play 5 of your toughest away matches in the first 11 games. And it's probably not hugely surprising that we're not on top of the table given that. But it does mean that for the next 27 matches, we only have one really, really difficult away match to come. And I'm kind of lifted and buoyed by that. Still, I can hear you out there saying, oh, come on, you're just trying to put a positive spin on things. 9 points is too big a gap to overhaul. Well, then let's address that. I'm taking a look now ahead at the fixtures up to the end of the year to see if there's any way at all that we could overhaul Liverpool's 9-point advantage. And let's start with that first game after an international break where Declan Rice and Bukayo Saka have not travelled with the England team. They will hopefully have 2 weeks to get full fitness or somewhere near it. Martin Odegaard has travelled with Norway, but Thomas Partey hasn't travelled. There's reasons to be optimistic that the end of this international break won't be as bad as the last one. Fingers crossed, right? But these things apply to all teams equally. So it might be Man City get a few more injuries or Liverpool get an injury. Because I just want to say quickly, whilst it's true that we haven't got a deputy for Martin Odegaard, do Liverpool have a player that can come in and play as well as Mo Salah? I think of the 3 teams in this title race, and I still believe we're in the title race, and I don't think Chelsea are they the one team in that 3 teams that is most reliant on its one star player? Possibly. On the 23rd of November, we played Nottingham Forest at home. Look, Nottingham Forest are riding high. They went to Anfield and got a victory. I'm not saying this is an easy 3 points, but I am saying that we would expect to get 3 points against Nottingham Forest at home. Man City are visited by Spurs. I know Tottenham are a little bit of a bogey team for Pep Guardiola, but this is Dr. Tottenham. If there's one team you want to play, having come off a record number of defeats in your career, it's Dr. Tottenham. Come to fix Man City's problems, put 3 points on the board for them, and put them back into winning ways, possibly with players coming back from injury. 3 points to Man City against Tottenham. And Liverpool go away to Southampton. Look, I'm not predicting anything but 3 points. So with 12 games played, Liverpool still 9 points clear of us, and all of the doom and gloom that's surrounding the club and those pessimists who think it's all over persists. We get to the 30th of November and we travel away to West Ham. Losing at home to West Ham last season was totally unpredictable and was devastating. But let's not forget, we emptied their stadium at half-time last season. So I don't think it's far-fetched to expect us to pick up 3 points. Of course, the day after, Liverpool visit Manchester City. If Man City lose to Liverpool at home, it is looking really bad for them. Their spirits buoyed by beating Tottenham, they're going to fall apart again. The doom and gloom around Man City is pretty epic at the moment. People talking about crisis, people saying the doom and gloom around Manchester City is just as bad, if not worse, than that around Arsenal. But of course, they have won 4 in a row. So if they don't win this season, I'm sure their fans can live with it. But the visit of Liverpool, I think, is likely to be a draw. I really do think that Liverpool go to the Etihad and get a draw. So both teams get a point, which means that we would be on 25 points, Man City would be on 27 points, and Liverpool would be on 32 points. Now, 7 points clear of us. Still a huge margin, but definitely better than 9. We can all agree on that. Our next game is Manchester United at home. Yes, they'll have Ruben Amorim in charge, but how much of a miracle can he work on a side that's got so little going for it, really? The Ruud van Nistelrooy bounce was epic, but they weren't really challenged to big games. And we've had a really good run of results against Manchester United. I would very much be hoping, expecting us to lift our game for their visit and get 3 points. Meanwhile, Manchester City host Nottingham Forest, and I think they'll get 3 points as well. But Liverpool travel away to Newcastle. We know that's not an easy fixture for anyone. Liverpool came and got a draw at the Emirates. I think they get a draw at Newcastle as well, which would mean that Arsenal would be on 28 points, Manchester City would be on 30 points, and Liverpool would be on 33 points, leaving Liverpool still 5 points clear of us. But it's starting to not look like an insurmountable advantage. Surely we can all agree on that. The next game for us is Fulham away. It was a hugely disappointing performance last season. It is a tricky place to go to Cottage, but let's say it is definitely possible that we can go and get a win there like we did 2 years ago. That we can. The reason last season's disappointment was so great at Fulham was because it was a game we really expected to win and didn't turn up for. Let's say this season's different and we get 3 points. We're on 31 points on the 7th of December. Man City go away to Palace and squeak a victory as they usually do. They're on 33 points. And Liverpool go away to Everton. A Liverpool derby. I don't know. I mean, Everton should lose that game. Liverpool could well beat them. Could go the other way. But let's say, for sake of argument, that they only get a point. Well, that means on the 7th of December, not even Christmas yet, Liverpool's lead over Arsenal is 3 points. Are we all still talking about the title being over, given that we've got to go away to Anfield and we could easily do an 89 and win there? The reality is that you cannot tell anything from the first 11 games of the season because the distribution of the games is different. Liverpool haven't played teams as tough as we have. Manchester City are in decline. I think that's evident. The fatigue of the last 4 years, being at the top for as long as they have, must be draining, and their squad does not look as good pound for pound as it did. They are missing key players, and Rodri out for an entire season, it's going to leave them at least 2 points worse off. The reality of all of this is that Arsenal could, and I'm not saying we will because I'm not able to predict, but if we can beat Forest, West Ham, Man United and Fulham, which is not that far-fetched, this calendar year we've gone on a far better run than that. But if we do it, and if Liverpool drop points at the Etihad, away to Everton and away to Newcastle, which is possible, we could literally be talking about a 3-point gap between the first 3 teams. Game on, title on, race on. Who knows what's going to happen in January? With Edu gone, perhaps he was a stumbling block. Perhaps the new man, whether it's Rosicky or whoever it is that takes over, could go out there and sign us a Victor Osimhen or a Victor Gyökeres or just somebody who can bang goals in for fun, maybe even a winger. I think it is starting to look like Sterling is not going to be the one. We also could do with a creative midfielder because, as I've already said, Odegaard, there's no one there to replace him really. But a concern with that is Ethan Nwaneri, because whilst he might not be ready to step into Odegaard's shoes just now, do you want to sign a player ahead of him that obstructs his path? Are we expecting him in the second half of the season to get more game time and show what he's capable of? I really want to see more Ethan Nwaneri. Arteta is coming under a lot of criticism. It's easy to say that we're too defensive. I think it's true. I think when we go down to 10 men away to Bournemouth, we've still got to go for it. When we're down to 10 men against Brighton, we still should have gone for it. I think we were disappointing against Newcastle. It wasn't so much the defeat, it was more the manner of the defeat. And as I've already said, deeply frustrating that we gave away the lead yesterday and against Liverpool. But if this is us at our worst, if this is us going through a little mini blip and coming out the other side, like we seem to do in every single season, then this title race is very definitely still on. January comes into play. Who knows where we're going to be? So if you want to feel like it's all over now, you do that. If you want to spend the rest of the season talking about how you were right all along and you said it, you called it 4 years ago, Arteta's not the right man for the job. If that's how you feel, you're entitled to your opinion. But I think a part of it is that our fan base are passionate and loyal. They care a great deal, but they don't have a lot of experience of going through title races. I've lived through 5. 1989 was all done. We'd screwed it. It was over. There's no way we were going to win it. We left it to the almost last kick of the game, an entire season to win it. And it felt fantastic. In 1991, it was more processional. We only lost that one game away to Chelsea. But 98, the bookies had already paid out on us not winning, and we somehow came back. Why not be able to do it again? There's never been a title that Arsenal have won in my lifetime where there haven't been parts of the season where we all doubted. You don't need me to tell you how to support your football club. You support Arsenal however you want. If supporting Arsenal for you is slagging off the players, the other fans and the team, that's your prerogative. You have at it. howl at the moon from your bedroom and complain about everything and all the people who don't know what they're doing as well as you would do from the comfort of your own bedroom, having never done any of those things yourself. As a side note, what I would say is all this talk about what Arsenal are doing being embarrassing, you have no right to be embarrassed by the efforts of highly paid professional sports people who don't even know you exist. Arsenal is an entity and it can't embarrass you. If you're embarrassed because we only drew away to Chelsea, then try supporting a different club for a little bit and see if you don't come back to the Arsenal. I have lived through far worse times as an Arsenal fan. This is not close to the bottom for me. But if it is for you, then I don't know what you've been watching. This is the longest period that we've gone without winning a title. The longest period before this was the two 18-year gaps between 1953 and 71 and 71 to 89. So I do understand Arsenal fans myself. I can't believe it's been so long since I celebrated at Highbury winning the Premier League Invincible season. It's a lifetime ago. And it must be deeply frustrating if you're under 30 because you just don't remember it, right? But from someone who does remember it, take it from me. You do not win the Premier League in November. You don't even win it in December. We've been top at Christmas the last 2 seasons and not won it, so we should know that by now. If you want to be angry, frustrated or disappointed, fine, you do that. But if you're going to carry on supporting Arsenal, this is not going to be as bad as it gets. And for any of you out there saying, oh, because your standards are so low, we're going to not win the Premier League and we're not going to hold Stan Kroenke's feet to the flames and make him go and buy. If you're going to blame my standards for our current performances, I'm not too disappointed by that. But can I take all the credit for the Invincible season then? Because I had the same standards then. Can I take the credit for the 91 season we only lost 1 game in? Because I was a fan then and my standards applied then. It's got nothing to do with my standards or your standards. What it has to do with is stepping away from the emotional connection to the football match and how disappointed we all felt and taking a rational look at it and go, you know what, we can still overhaul a 9-point lead with 27 games to go. Anyway, I'm sure you'll let me know in the comments how wrong I am and what an idiot I am. And some of you, hopefully, will find solace in the fact that at least somebody else agrees with you that it's ridiculous to be talking about the end of the title race. There is an age divide here. The younger guys are all talking about how it's all over, it's done, we can't do this, Arteta's a fraud, blah, blah, blah. You've all heard it before. Level of anger is a little bit out of place. I never saw that on the terraces. I never saw that in all the time I was at Highbury. I never saw such vitriol and anger and bile and spill. Yeah, Arteta. Seems to be the sort of thing that doesn't happen at matches. It just sort of happens on YouTube. Well, not here, it doesn't. I'm going to stay positive until it's impossible to be anything else. I invite you to join me in a positive approach to this coming season, whilst still accepting that there have been things that have been deeply frustrating about the club. I look forward to hearing your thoughts. Until I see you again, be lucky. Lots of love.